Tonight we are going to be working on Inktense and MeWe. This is a gray, it's kind of a bluish gray or a cooler gray than usual. And I'm going to be drawing my frog Glitch. You can get this reference photo over at my website. The link is in the video description. So I'm going to start by just taking some black. So I'm going to just start filling this in. And I'll go, I can switch for the areas around her toes. I've got a little, actually, I should probably get that out now. I am using Pastels and I'm using Soft Tools, S-O-F-F-T, Soft Tools. Link is in the video description. And these are what I use to apply the Pastels with. Now I tried, because I had the bright idea, oh, I'll just use a paintbrush. Yeah, no, it does not work. It just knocks too much of the pastel off the canvas, or the paper. So now with this little guy, I can get in between her toes easier. Now, if you don't have Pastels, you can just skip this part and do the entire frog all with colored pencils. It just takes a little longer. So just filling all in between there. It's okay if it gets a bit where the colored pencil is going to go. The colored pencil generally covers it pretty well. You can see it can get really, really dark depending on how pigmented you want that. I'm going to spread it out though. I just want mine to be soft. You want to get the pack of the 4 different shapes and get extras of these. So that will last me a really long time. But it is definitely worth getting the big set there. And then you just slide these over your tool. And I'm gonna do that on my lap because these rip really easily. You might be thinking, why wouldn't you just use black paper? The black doesn't, well, the color that I'm putting on top wouldn't be quite as bright if I went with a paper that dark. It's doable, but it would definitely not be, this will be a bit brighter, which is what I wanted there. And I just like the look, that soft look that the Pastels give for the background, so, and I wanted to play with that new colorless blender, of course. So there are a few reasons. Let's switch to the smaller one. And then we're just going to lightly outline that. And I'll keep it off the frog as much as possible, but again, if it doesn't like it, just got all over in there a bit, no big deal. The colored pencil does cover it pretty well, and I'm going to switch to a larger guy here. Now right now I'm being pretty sloppy because I want to really see how much that gets smoothed out with that colorless blender. I don't even know, honestly, if that's the intent. Like, why do people want the colorless blender? What is it that maybe you guys can tell me what it is about the colorless blender? What is it doing for you that makes you like it so much? I'm hoping for it just to get rid of easier the soft, like all of these brush marks I'm getting. So I'm making extras as a test. This is actually how I usually test products. I do a project. I find like doing color swatches, you only learn so much about how it's going to work. Because the problem is, and I know a lot of reviews will do that, they'll color swatch a product. That doesn't tell me a whole lot about it. I want to see how it performs when you use it like you would on an actual project. That's what I find to be interesting. So that is what I do for myself to figure out how I like something. We've got a little dark area by his leg, or her, I'm saying his, that's Glitch, that's her. Don't tell her. Seems so impersonal. Can't even get my own frog right. The reflection is really odd on this. Didn't notice until I started drawing it out. I think that's about right. Let's go a little bit darker, and then I'm going to blend that with the colorless blender. We can start on Glitch. See, even without the colorless blender, that blends out so smoothly. Like, Pastels are just such a nice medium to work with. Okay, so let's go ahead with that powder or colorless blender. I'm just going to load some on there. Yeah, that goes so smooth. It definitely gets it more smooth than without. It's one of those still, I don't know that you need it, but it is pretty handy. I think I will buy it again, but I don't, and I'm going to have to test more, not on this one, but I'll have to test more using it on the subject to see how well the colored pencil sticks to it. So I'm still on the fence on that one, just from the quick test that I did. It does seem to lighten the black up a little bit, but it might be because it's lifting so much with the blender. Yeah, wow, that is so smooth. So I could imagine if you're using multiple colors, yeah, that would certainly give a very, very smooth look very easily. And again, I've never had a hard time getting the pan pastels to be smooth on their own. You don't have to have this product, the colorless blender, but man, that is nice. I don't need it to be perfectly smooth, but there we go. Okay, so let's go ahead now. I'm going to start with the red in her eyes. I'm just going to take some bright red, fill that in. And again, this could all be done with colored pencil. This is just going to save me a bit of time getting a base on there. Now, the reason that I started with red and not the green is when red mixes with green, which this way I'm not going to switch the brush, it'll neutralize it. It'll make it more of a neutral, like in this case, kind of an avocado green. I don't mind neutralizing the green. I didn't want the red to be kind of an avocado green, though. I didn't want to tone that down. I wanted the nice, bright eyes. So that is why I started there instead of with the green. And I'll define those better later. So right now our eyes look all wonky. That's okay. Now I'm going to switch to the orange. And I'm not really doing any shading here, just getting a base in. I'll do the shading with the colored pencil. So let's start. We've got a toe. Jason asked if Glitch is suspended in air. No, she's sticking to glass. So these guys, they're tree frogs, and that's how the photo was. She's sticking onto the glass tank, so she's not like floating. Anyone who has one of these, when they see this photo, they know exactly what's happening. Although I could see the average person being like, huh, what's happening there? No, she's on glass, and that's why I've included most of the reflection to help capture that look. Okay, wait, what's going on here? This toe, this one comes way out. So part of the black needs to come in a little bit further. And a lot of the reflection I'll focus on more with the colored pencils. So here are, I think, her actual toes end, and then this is all reflection. I'm going, I don't want to mix with that. I'm going to just keep it easy, where I normally wouldn't blend much in the way of orange and black. In this case, because of the way this photo is, it kind of works. And then I'll go over it with like purples and such with the colored pencil when we get to that part. And then I'm going to wipe the orange right over that. See, a little bit of up there, and then a weird double. This is why this photo was so weird. It ends up looking like there's extra toes, and that was what happened with her face. They were doubled because of the panes of glass. Just how that reflection, like depending on the distance. So right now everything's going to be very, very flat. Okay, and this last foot down here. And what I will do once I get everything filled in, I'm going to spray this with Spectrafix and dry it, and that way the colored pencil will work better. And see, that's the other thing I was talking about. I wasn't sure if the colorless blender, if the colored pencil was really sticking that well, but realistically, I normally spray it with Spectrafix first, so it probably wouldn't have made any difference whatsoever. So in that case, so these are all the things I'm going to have to test. I have many questions. Okay, I think that's good for the orange for now. Now we've got some purpley violet. So I'm going to mix those two first, and then we'll add white on top. So technically this part of her is white, but being in the dark, you're going to have a lot of color reflecting on that. Remember, white, even in like bright light, is not going to be white white. So here, being that she's in the dark, we want to mix some other colors in there. Nothing here has to be perfect because I'm going to clean stuff up with the colored pencils. And the nice thing is too, I'm not even going to need to use odorless mineral spirits like I normally would because it's already got such a smooth base. You can, but you don't need, like in this case, I really won't need to. Now we've got some bluish purple on the legs, so I'm going to be mixing these two colors. So you just mix them right in the pans. And I really just kind of want to base like a mid-range tone. I don't need anything super bright because I can do that with a colored pencil. Let's see her little belly. A little bit more white and blue mixed together. Oh, I completely forgot the leg up here. Okay, now what I'm doing is just wiping this on a paper towel in between colors. I've just chosen to do or apply the colors in an order where if they mix a little bit with what was already on the brush, it's not a big deal. Like I said, I started with red first because I don't want other colors dirtying that one up. Okay, now let's get some green. One's a better green, it's a bit brighter. Now I would rather at this point, if you're using the pan pastels, you know how I was saying it didn't really matter if the black got onto the green, avoid getting the green onto the black. I don't want to have to redo the background if I don't have to. So I would rather not quite make it to the edge with the pan pastel and then fill that in with the colored pencils where it's a little bit easier to control. If that's a concern, keeping inside the lines sort of thing, then do that with the pencils. A little bit more green up here. We will spray it and start with the pencils. And see, look how much time that saved. Yes, it's messy right now, But look how much time that saves versus doing it just with colored pencil. And that's not to say I don't like doing work just with colored pencil either, but this is a fun way to get a lot of work done really quickly. Let me grab my spray bottle. Oh, I don't know where the tube is. So this is SpectraFix. The link is, if I did my job right, in the video description. And I put it in a fine mist sprayer. So if you spray it out of the bottle that it comes in, you get heavier droplets. Now, no matter what, you get some heavy droplets. Not the end of the world. You just, orange on there, you just blend it back out. It's no problem. But I'd rather not have a ton of heavy droplets to blend out if I can avoid it. So that is why I put things in the fine mist sprayer to do that. And then sometimes this does get clogged. It looks like it's okay. And I'm just going to move my phone out of the way. Just going to lightly go over that. And I will use a hair dryer to speed up the dry. I'm doing a little bit more than lightly apparently, but I'm going to use the hair dryer to speed that up. The paper will start to warp a little. It's taped down, so it should dry mostly in shape. The hair dryer will make sure it does all the way. So plug your ears. Now I need to get a piece of glassine. And I have one over here I can use. Yay! I get to be lazy. I think this one was for my oranges. And so I'm going to put this here so that I don't smudge anything and it keeps the oils from my hand off the work. So I can probably zoom in a bit more here. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. And it's not that the camera's out of focus. The artwork is not in focus. I've already picked out some colored pencils that should work. I've got a combination of Polychromos, Derwent Lightfast, and Caran d'Ache Luminance for no particular reason other than, yeah, that color looks like it'll work, and I was just grabbing stuff. So let's move you safe spot. And I'm going to start with the eyes. So we know I need some nightshade. And red, orange, white. I'm definitely going to need a pencil sharpener. Oh, I've got a few pencil sharpeners. So the pencil sharpeners that I normally go with are just these little metal comb, like cheapy sharpeners. And when they get to a point, this one's actually a really good example. This one, I don't even remember what brand this one is. Oh, this one's a Faber-Castell. It hit a point, I don't know what is all over it if something got sprayed on it, but it almost, let's see if you can, it's not sharpening, it's sticking. I feel like I'm using a rusty blade. Can you see how it's like not smooth? What should happen with most erasers, or sharpeners, and this is what lets you know that needed to be changed out. Like that blade is old, and I think it probably got sprayed with like a fixture fixative of some sort, or texture fixative. Wow, I got that backwards. When that happens, it'll also happen if it just starts to get old and dull and rusty. So if you get to where you're like fighting to turn it, in this case, I'll probably wash it or soak it in hot water and see what happens, but go ahead and try another one, because see, look at the difference. This one's all smooth now. I'm not fighting it. It just twists nice and smoothly. And that one, I think it's, no, that one's a Coombe. Yeah, that one's a Coombe. But, and I'm not saying that's because one's Faber-Castell and one's Coombe. It's, one is really like, I can feel the outside of it, something got sprayed all over it. But that also happens when the sharpener itself is dull. That's why I left it over here so I could show you. Okay. So we've got some areas, some detailing right around here. So I'm going to spend, the majority of the detailing is going to be her eyes and her toes will take the most. And I'm pushing pretty hard, so I am burnishing at this point. This isn't going to be something where I'm doing a ton of layering to get it to look how I want. So I can go ahead and push a little bit harder since I don't have to worry about that. Dark indigo, nope, I want nightshade. Ideally, sharpened nightshade. Feels like that lid is loose. I think I might have broken that one. Not just now, I think it was already broken. So just shaping those eyes out. Now in these guys, it is not uncommon for them to look like they're going in two different directions. That is something you want to watch if you are doing like a pet portrait in a dog or a cat. Watch that. While some animals will be cross-eyed, I see way too often, I'm gonna use black here because the polychromos is sharper. I see way too often where the artist makes the animal cross-eyed when they shouldn't be. Avoid that. It's not a cute look. I mean, if the animal is cross-eyed, that's fine. You obviously would want to capture that. But I'm seeing a lot where, yeah. But her eyes actually are going in two different directions because, well, it's glitch. Let's pull some orange now. We'll start getting the highlights in the eye. Now notice that I don't jump to white for highlights in the eye. I don't want pink. I mean, she does have one bright highlight, but actually I can go ahead and put that now just to make sure I don't lose it. But I'm not trying to do all of the highlights or all of the light areas just with white because that just looks like pink. So instead, I'm using orange, or this is apricot with the Caran d'Ache Luminance. Okay, and then I can go to a really bold orange red. This one is, oh God, it's Caran d'Ache Luminance. I can't read anything on there. Permanent, I think that just says permanent red. See, just cleaning up what was there. And then I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the green. I'm going to go with the bright yellow. So these guys will actually change colors. You can take a little bit of artistic liberties here. In the day, they will have more of a yellow green, which I love that color, like that lime green, and that's what I'm using right now. At night, when they're in the dark, they're typically going to be a much dark, like a more blue green, sometimes almost a gray color, because the way they change color depending on their environment, safety reasons and all that. That you can use whatever green, like again, that reference photo is more blue-green here. I am going with the pretty daytime frog colors. And then I've got the darker green. I may need to grab another dark. Let's see. No, that might be dark enough. That with purple will probably work. It's okay for that just to fade out into the black in the back. You don't need the back of the head to be that bright. But right in here, we've got this darker area. And we've got a bit darker over here. And I'll darken it up even more in some of these areas with the purple. And then we've got her body. I'll be using more of the darker green. I think this is just a Kelly or grass. Yeah, grass green. Looks like a Kelly green. And this outer edge, it's okay if it fades. That one, I'm okay with it fading into the background. I don't need that super sharp. I want the brightest greens on her face. Even though some of these greens are a lot lighter in the reference photo, the reference photo is that way because of the light. I'm shining a flashlight, like a spotlight on her, so it's lighting things up. I don't necessarily need that bright, but to get the dimension the way I want, I'm gonna use more of the light greens on her face and then shade, push everything back just a bit. Okay, let's grab some nightshade or purple. Probably go with purple. Purple is more of a magenta color in the Derwent Lightfast. It's not what I would think of like a purple dioxazine. It has more of a red mix into it. Really pretty color, but it's going to work well for these shadows. So you want to start creating that depth so that she doesn't look flat. I have firsthand experience she's not flat when she flies at my face. This is my special needs girl, and she doesn't have full control of where she goes. So sometimes she'll try to jump that way, and she jumps at your face instead. It's lovely. Loads of fun. That frog has stuck to my glasses so many times, but she has to be hand-fed still. Point is, she's very three-dimensional. Let's capture, oh, that really needs to be sharpened. So I'm going to switch to a blue. This one is Mid Blue by the Derwent Lightfast. I'm going to push a little bit harder there. We want that shadow, but I don't want to cover it all the way. I really like that light color that's in there from the Pan Pastels too. We've got a dark shadow in here. I'm going to do that with the purple. And I'm burnishing and pushing pretty hard. I'm going to pull some of that blue, shade her leg a bit. I'll also shade it with some purple. So I can push harder and separate these. Let's give her some definition on her lips. And see, my colors do not have to be exact to that photo. That's not important, but pay attention where are your lights and darks. Usually I like my lights and darks even a bit more bold. So a bit brighter, a bit darker is good. Let's work on this area of our little pointy snoot. I'm going to go over that with just a little bit of white, but remember white, well, part of this we need white dots because it is shiny, but where I mix it in with the green, we're going to get a more pastel color. So make sure when you, oops, pushing too hard there, when you shade over an area, that pastel is the look you're going for. Light area here. And we've got this dark shadow under her eye here. A little bit of a highlight on the outer edge of her eyes. Not too crazy because I don't want to lose the red. Okay, let's come down to our body now. Again, I just want that to fade a little bit, but I do want a definite line here to separate her face. Got her frog lips. And then a little bit of a highlight here. You just want to watch where are the lights and the darks. Again, color's not that big of a deal. Where are the lights and the darks? That is what's going to make your work look more three-dimensional. These colors, not the same as my photo. It's green, not the same green, but that's fun. That's good enough. But I need my darks dark enough and my lights light enough. So here, we've got a definite sharp shadow. And I think, oh good, I do have it out. So this one is Manganese Violet, and then I've got Heather. They're basically near the same between the Caran d'Ache Luminance and the Derwent Lightfast. So let's get some more shading here. So just a light purple. And then I would say the most time-consuming part is probably going to be her toes. Oops, that should have been white. That'll work better. That'll make it stand out more. Just want to make sure these edges on our face especially are really nice and clean, because that's going to help make that stand out more. I'm just going to lighten this area in here. Okay, let's move on to our toes. We may come back to parts of that. We'll see if it needs it. Most of what I'll be using is Apricot. That one is Caran d'Ache Luminance. The Permanent Red, Caran d'Ache Luminance, which is just like a darker orange. And then Purple by Derwent Lightfast. And white that I probably shouldn't have put down. Come back, white. You're not done. You thought you were done. You are not done. And so I want to make sure that the toes that are like not the reflection, those are the ones I want super bright. I'm going to push pretty hard. And then we've got the darker red. A little bit of a shadow here on the corner. I'm going to clean that toe up, round that off, and then straighten it out where it meets up against her leg, which I'm going to define a little bit better with a shadow. And now I'm using purple for that deeper shadow right over some of the red areas, not everywhere, just where it needs to be a lot darker. Let's grab, yeah, the Polychromos green I'm going to use just because it's a lighter one. It's not as in your face as the other more opaque ones. And then I'm going to push pretty hard for that highlight where the white goes. Right there in between the toes. The big thing is that you're just constantly looking at your reference photo. Spend more time looking at the photo than you do your artwork. And that can be a little bit of a challenge to get in the hang of. So if you're not used to it, I'm going to grab a Derwent Drawing Chinese white. Let's see if that will show up a little bit better. I'm not sure if it will on that or not. Where was I? Not great. Another option for if the highlight is not bright enough, that's okay. But if I need something to be brighter, I can also go with the brush and pencil touch-up texture titanium white mixture. Some of these areas this is showing up really well. Can you tell I just got a new one? They all still have the labels on. Yeah, I think I probably will do a bit of touch-up texture, titanium white over. I'm not going to mess too much because there were some dots I wanted around her face to make her look shiny. So we'll come back and do that. So we've got some more shading in here. Now I'm just going to do most of my shading with purple. If you don't get the full set of Derwent Lightfast, at least get the purple and nightshade. Those are two absolute must-haves for me. Sharpen that pencil again. So this orange, I'm going to put it on with the orange, but then I'm going to tone it down with my purple. So this is where our reflection is, or I can let some of the black show through. That works too. But this is this is what I was talking about earlier, that really odd reflection because you've got doubles. It's not as simple as just one area, like one toe equals one reflection sort of thing. So we have that toe, and then this is really close. But I'm going to take the the purple, define that a little bit more. And then this one is same toe, same reflection, but at a distance there. You want to, like everything else, look at it as abstract shapes. If I look at this as toes and try to make it make sense, it just doesn't. Let's see, we've got some violet. Let me grab the manganese violet. Heather would also work. But I really want to make sure that these toes here are way brighter than these toes. So I'm going to tone them down even a little bit more with my purple. If I don't have enough contrast there, that really isn't going to look right. Okay, let's come up to this foot now. We've got the one big toe. So I'm just looking at that photo and trying to guide or figure out what is happening with my drawing, because it's kind of a fuzzy mess at this point. See, there was another toe over here. And then the guy in the background. I'm going to grab some black and darken this a bit. And see how we start cleaning things up now. Actually, while I've got the black out, I can define a little bit more there. Okay, I'm going to switch over to that darker red. Let's start getting some of the shading in here. And largely really mapping out what goes where at this point. Abstract shapes. I'm using my violet. Let's go ahead and clean up those toes. Now some of this I will be putting the red over. I don't want it to be this dark. This almost looks black at this point. And it doesn't need to be exact. Like these abstract shapes I'm talking about, go for close. But if it's a little off, no one's going to notice the difference, as long as you do get it pretty close. But see how important it is to start getting these dark areas so that these look like the real toe versus the reflection. And when you first start drawing, if you look at something and it just seems confusing and you're thinking, how did you even notice that? That does come with time and practice, I promise. It is normal when you first start to just not notice as much as the next artist. The longer you do this, the more you're going to notice in your own work. So you'll be the one catching the little details like that. But it is very normal not to notice these sorts of things, the little stuff, and it will come with time. Don't feel that that's some sort of indication that you're not going to be a good artist. I see that a lot where people get frustrated, or if I would show something to them in person and like, I didn't see that, I didn't even notice that. That's normal. That does not mean you're not going to be amazing. It means you just need to draw more. The longer you do it, the more you'll start to notice. So we've got this highlight going up her arm here. To apricot. Let's fill that in a bit more. And I want this edge to be a little bit cleaner, so I'm going to go back around it with the black. thing up here. I'm not pushing very hard here, just lightly tinting that color. Okay, we'll get some more highlights again with the Touch-Up Texture Titanium White mixture. Ooh, that is definitely too dark. Let's shade that, and then I'm going to go over it with Apricot. There we go. So she's got one toe kind of under the other. They're weirdly bendy, so you will have, and it sometimes won't make a ton of sense. You'll be working on it and thinking, why is the toe bending? They bend in very weird ways, so toes will start crossing, all kinds of weird things. Don't let that, like, your photo's probably not wrong. The frog's just bendy. Okay, we've got these toes. I don't think I have these drawn exact at all. That's okay. And again, pushing pretty hard here. And this toe looks like it's a little bit easier to define what goes where. And this is a 5x7, so you're not going to get a ton of detail in something like this, or at least I'm not going to put that much into it. But if you want tons of detail, I recommend going larger. The larger you go, the easier it is to get a lot of little detail in your work. So you see often, you can really see this a lot on Instagram, where the artist is working on this huge piece. When you're at a distance, it looks like a photograph. When you zoom in, you can see the actual pencil marks and brush strokes. But working larger is going to give you more space, more room to get that little detail. It always looks really good when you take a photo of, or post a photo online in a smaller form. It makes it look really amazing. Let's see, that shadow connects here. And then this toe comes back out around, getting that reflection. And then we've got the additional reflection out here. These are the little things I didn't even notice on the photo, that there were double reflections, until I started drawing it out. A little bit more with the reflection. Now, I don't like this is standing out way too much. Let's tone that down. I can tone it down with some red and then purple if I need to. Let's push that back. Much, much better. Same thing with this one. Let's push that back. This is a little bit too bold, so let's tone it down by going over it with the apricot. So this is very forgiving. You can go back and forth over it until it looks how you want. Now, one of the things, this is looking way brighter just because the lights, since I don't have my other light on right now. So it is, the top looks brighter than what it does in person, just on camera. Let's thin that toe way out. There we go. That turns that into more of the reflection area. So I'm just going to do a few little touch-ups here. That's about done. And I've got to grab the Touch-Up Texture Titanium White mixture. So this product you can get from brushandpencil.com. I think Blick carries it as well. But it's brush and pencil. There are two products that I mixed together, and this is going to be archival for the colored pencil and the pastels. Many people think you can just use white acrylic paint or a white gel pen. Those are not archival. Those are not intended for colored pencil. Colored pencil being wax and oil based, those things don't always play nicely. So over time, especially if we're going through the trouble to use light fast pencils, I'm not going to ruin it by using a water-based product on top of it. So this is the colored pencil touch-up texture. Comes in a little like nail polish jar. You just want to make sure, see how there's that white powder at the bottom? You want to shake that up until it's completely mixed together. And this is why the texture fixative with brush and pencil, it's pretty much the same thing where it will get that powder built up. That's why you have to shake it for like 2 minutes before you use it. You're making sure that you get that completely mixed up. Nope, not quite mixed together. What I'm gonna do is put this in just, usually I use the lid, like a water bottle lid. I don't have one in here, so this is actually from the Pan Pastel or Soft Tools. I'm just going to stick a bit of that in there. So there is my touch-up or titanium white. I'm gonna put a little bit, don't need much. It's kind of a 50-50 mixture. That's super overexposed, but then I'm just going to mix that together. Now that I can paint, you'll have chunks in there, that's normal. I just scratch them off with my nail if they end up on the artwork. I'm using a number 1 synthetic hog-haired liner. And that is what I'm going to paint for any details. So anywhere where I want those little shine marks that just weren't standing out enough. I need to reload that. Now that's a little bit too, wow, that's a white dot. No worries, when it dries I can go over it with a colored pencil. Colored pencil sticks really well to this. So you could also use this, let's say I wanted the eyes to be a brighter red. I could paint them with this white and then put red on top. So that would also be an option. And what I'm going to do is just dot so her face looks nice and shiny. It just comes out so much brighter than anything the pencil is going to be able to do. And that doesn't mean that what you have with a pencil isn't good enough. It just depends on what you want. I can push those highlights just a bit farther with this product. Again, if any of these areas, because my brush is getting frayed, I'm going to have to replace it with a new one soon. But if any of these areas are just too much, it's no big deal. When it dries, I can just go right back over it with a pencil. You just want to make sure that it does dry all the way. Because otherwise, sometimes it'll chip up. Like it'll scrape when you go over it with a pencil. It's not a big deal, you just put more, but I'd rather not waste the time if I don't have to. See, this color will look way more accurate. This is what the actual little frog looks like. You can see huge, oh, that's not in focus though. You can see a huge difference from what you're seeing on the other camera. Is so overexposed. For those of you who don't know the story of Glitch, just short, quick with that, she ended up with a neurological disorder from a medication she had to have, and she couldn't catch her food. So I contacted experts and pretty much everyone's like, yeah, she's not going to make it. Like if she can't eat, and they won't eat what doesn't move, but she would dive, like the food was here and she'd dive for it, but her body would go that way. Like she couldn't control where she was going. So I watched her starve for about 2 weeks. Frogs can go a long time without eating, but I watched her just, and it was heartbreaking. But I ended up deciding, you know what, I'm just going to try to force feed her. Took an expired old Costco card, used it to pry her mouth open. Getting a frog's mouth open, not easy when they don't want it. And then I had disposed of, pre-mushed some crickets, and I just stuck them in really quick while her mouth was open and closed it, and she ate. And I've been doing that every 3 days or so for the last 2.5 years. She's doing great. She's active. Like, she doesn't have full control. She's still wobbly. The neurological thing is still there. She still sometimes moves in circles. But other than that, I mean, she's an active, she's all over her vivarium. I'm so glad that I went ahead and did that. It is a lot of work. I mean, I have to feed her. I guess it doesn't take that long. It's like an extra 20 minutes of work to do it or so every 3 days or so. But yeah, she's still with us, and she's just adorable, her little wobbly self. So yeah, that is the story of Glitch. Glitch is, and she's a great model. The only problem is she'll randomly like want to jump into her vivarium, but go the wrong direction and hit me in the face after, because I have to take her out to force feed her. But yeah, that is my Glitchy girl.
Hey, you. Yes, you. I see all your unused art supplies over there. Oh my god, those brushes aren't even opened yet. Tragic. You keep buying new fancy materials, but you don't use them because you don't want to waste them. Stop making your art supplies sad. Sign up for art lessons for as little as $4 a month. There are over 300 painting and drawing lessons available when you sign up, and new ones every week. Patreon.com/Lachri.